Stay ahead of the competition with Sensor Tower, the trusted source for mobile marketing intelligence. Whether you're tracking trends, benchmarking performance, or scouting the next big hit, Sensor Tower delivers the data that drives strategy. Dominate the charts with Sensor Tower.
Hey, are you building a game, launching an app, or considering an acquisition? Well, in that case, Deconstructor of Fun Consulting is here to help you out. We do everything from market research to go-to-market strategies to live ops optimization and due diligence. We're trusted by some of the most beloved game development companies, makers of tools and tech, as well as some of the most renowned investors. Now, if you are building, launching, or buying, don't do it alone. Do it with us. Connect by emailing to consulting@deconstructoroffun.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Deconstructor of Fun, This Week in Games. TWIG, what number are we? 337. We're getting up there. Hi, I'm Jen Donahoe. I fill the marketing and publishing role on the podcast. Today we have
Eric Kress, strategy and investing, and talking about spin-outs about Xbox.
Phil Black, monetizations are.
Mishka Katkov, amigo de los fundaderos. I'm back in Spain, so friend of the founders.
How long are you there?
A month and a half.
Oh, so you'll be there. Wait,
Yeah.
where in Spain are you?
Andalusia. This is a place where they don't pronounce S.
Yes. I'm in Barcelona next week, so I'll wave at you. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you have hosting duty next week, everybody. Oh, get ready. Get ready. Here it comes.
Heaven help us.
Oh, boy.
That episode is gonna be a riot.
Oh my God. Not the company, but not Los Angeles. Yeah. So last time I listened, I wanted to yell at all of you. Do not talk about marketing topics without me because you get it all wrong. Mr. I'm a marketing cosplayer. Okay. Here's what we have going on today. Will Apple start opening up in Europe? Supercell wants to take bigger risks. It's a Supercell article, so Mishka can't help himself, so he has to talk about it. It's a time warp back to 2023 and 24 as we talk about tons of game industry layoffs. What's going on with a few of the Riot Games and companies? YouTube turns 20, and it's basically on the back of the game industry. Kress writes the Xbox eulogy. I can't wait for everyone to hear this one. His LinkedIn post is blowing up, so we'll talk about it. Phil reports on games, and a lot of them. Thank you, Phil, for doing all of the work of bringing the games in. What's going on, Mishka? You tell me about your marketing cosplay at Meta.
So I was invited to once again do a keynote at a marketing summit. Thank you for Meta for invitation to the Meta Marketing Summit. The NDA is such a long one that I don't know if I can even talk about this event. Like when you sign in, you basically get sued. They will take my child if I tell you what we talked about.
You clearly don't read it. You could put it through ChatGPT and tell them what they're restricting.
It's the one they send you in advance. I just talked to a couple of people as we're waiting for the event to start, like in the lounge area. They were like, "That NDA is crazy."
Yeah, you're like docu-signing your second child.
Yes, exactly. So, normally I would like to take a photo at the event and maybe at the audience. I'm like, I was even afraid to do that. I'm like, I don't know what I'm allowed to do once I signed in here. So it's like
you just agreed that their AI can crawl all of the Deconstructor of Fun content, and they can recreate our digital versions of this. Well done.
It's like llama of everything. But so it was interesting. There was a lot of good people. Again, I don't even know if I can say who was there, but there were big companies, small companies, mid-sized companies, Turkish, Cyprus, and so forth. I gave my normal talk. What I want to say about that is, first of all, I'm not jet lagged, but I ended up taking a red eye because I was supposed to leave in the evening from London, but it got delayed twice. So I arrived at 3 a.m. So I'm going to be a little bit slow today. So that was not fun.
Oh, so normal. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So normal baby brain. But the one thing is, I have one of the portion of my keynote is always I kind of talk about AI and the promises of AI and what we have right now. And I put in some stats and some surveys from CEO questionnaires, et cetera, maybe quotes from Strauss. It's very good efficiency tool and very good at iteration and speeding up, but it's not revolutionary. It's more like evolutionary at this point. And then every speaker who follows me, and they're usually from either Meta or Google, whoever, they basically say, yeah, like this guy was against AI. So I always have to defend myself. I'm not against AI. We literally launched an AI product just a while back. We're launching more. I'm using AI all the time. I'm just saying it doesn't give competitive advantage at this point. We know only few AI first companies. Like, what's the Finnish one?
Cosmic Lounge.
Cosmic Lounge. Cosmic Lounge. Like, that's one of the few companies that I know that has AI at the center. They're making games with AI, puzzle games.
I've dug into that, by the way, a little bit more, and I will say that there's also a lot of AI that plugs into their tool. Yeah. So they're operating on other AI tools too. Like, they're inserting themselves into the stack. It isn't always like homegrown stuff. Like, they're coalescing a lot of tools into a development engine. I think that's maybe what we've misunderstood about them. Sorry, go ahead, Michigan.
Yeah, my point was more like there's only very few companies that are sort of like AI native, and we haven't seen them to break on top of the charts. So at this point, it's not revolutionary. Could be in the future. And I kind of make this case of .com bubble. Like, we had the .com bubble, but everything that was projected, or most of it, kind of came through, but it wasn't at the same time span as we're thinking, like tomorrow. No, it took a decade. So maybe this will take a few years. So all I want to just say, I'm not anti-AI. I'm very pro-AI, but despite being labeled so by the biggest tech companies in the world.
Can your son use AI to play basketball?
Yeah, exactly. Quick update on basketball. We were at Section 7, which is a huge basketball tournament for high schools in the West Coast. So it's Arizona, Utah, California, and West Coast. So it is unbelievable. These kids, these are some of the kids that Jacob played with in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and they've all kind of grown up and now are just destroying it out there. And like, every time I go to these events, and it's like 160 teams of the top teams from all the states, there's just different levels to this. Like, it's like, like you see something like Cooper Flagg, who is just unbelievable guy. Like, he's at a different level than even most of the T1 college kids. So these kids are like, sophomore, juniors, and seniors, and they're all like, many of them have D1 offers already as a sophomore. And so It was amazing to see. Unfortunately, Jacob was hurt, so he can't play, but we're going just to support the team. We did really well in our division. Like, we won our division, but our division was not one of the premier divisions with these like insane players. Some great players, like D1 players that we played, but there's just teams that are just well and above, everyone else. So anyway, really amazing tournament to watch.
Oh, cool. All right. So, quick shill. I did a podcast with a very small up and coming company. The product is called PlaySlap. The reason why I did the podcast is I just thought the trend of trying to get Gen Alpha and teens up off your ass, combined with, mobile gaming, combined with like location-based gaming, could be something kind of interesting to look at as we think about what's the future of gaming on mobile. So check out that podcast if you just want to hear a little bit more from a tech perspective. They had some interesting kind of geolocation services in the way that they were tapping into Bluetooth. That was kind of interesting. Anyway, Gamescom.
Yeah, this is not even a shill. I want people to encourage Jen and Cress and Phil to come to Gamescom. So if you put enough social pressure, they might cave and come, because we are doing a couple of events. We're doing one with Heroic and their huge event. And then we're doing our own whiskey and water tasting event once again, and some other ones. So please pressure Jen, Cress, and Black to come.
I only can convince my wife of going out to fucking Germany for a week and extracting myself from life. If I'm sponsored and someone pays my ass my way, then I can justify it. Otherwise, it's just like, no.
Sponsor Cress to come. Like, he needs
all of us. Yeah, why does he get special treatment?
Chris. Yeah. Well, he requested it.
I just want the Zamboni ride. That's it. Zamboni and Mid, man.
They have Zamboni. They play hockey in Germany?
Yeah. Germany's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Pretty good.
Right.
On to corrections. It's not a correction.
Someone made a believer out of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a correction yet, because we actually don't even know yet. But the word from the grapevine is that I jumped the gun on Believer. Evidently, they may, at the last minute, have found funding to pay $750 to $1 million salaries for a startup. So that we will see what the new round of financing is, and if at all these VCs can get their house in order.
So just to recap, last week you said Believer, which is founded by some ex-Riot people, was a startup that had raised like hundreds of millions? 55? You had said that they shut down. And so what you're saying is that may be too early to call. I feel like it's a political podcast.
No, but I have to say, like, I've heard that people had already left because they ran out of money and they couldn't pay their salaries. So Crest wasn't actually like jumping the gun. Like, all the signs were there. Like, the cross was already put on the ground. The grave was there. And something might have happened. An Undertaker moment.
Lightspeed, like, unearthed money from their, like, underneath their mattress and fucking shelved it out so that they could pay salaries for another year. Whatever.
That's Lightspeed and A16Z, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of them.
Yeah. So.
Okay. What's going on with Mind's Eye?
Mind's Eye, I mean, this is more on the news side. So Mind's Eye, the Crest talked about it in the last podcast with the Mind's Eye from Build a Rocket Boy. They canceled the sponsor streams and they began pretty big layoffs. So what we heard down the grapevine was 100 people is getting laid off. And I think the whole company is about 300. So that's a third of the company. So not looking good, but hopefully they will course correct with the second game or maybe just release a bunch of patches. So that's Mind's Eye.
All right. Few things going on high level. One is, this is from mobilegamer.biz and the FT. Apple could open up the EU App Store a little more this week in order to avoid paying a ton of money to the EU. That fee is coming up. So as a reminder, the iPhone maker was fined €500,000 in April for breaching their Digital Markets Act. And, obviously with the runtime fee that they set up, that was seen as not enough to satisfy the EU regulators. So yesterday, the FT reported that the tech giant is negotiating with EU regulators to make those charges go away. So we don't know yet. As of today, when I checked, nothing has been decided, but what happened in the US could be coming to Europe soon. And then, Cress, I put this in here for you. I thought you would love this. Netflix is removing 20 mobile games this summer.
I'm canceling my subscription. This can be.
I know. So this is coming, I think they said in July. It includes the Monument Valley trilogy. They just released Monument Valley 3 not too long ago. That was a big game back in the day. Hades is on the list. Plus a ton of branded games, Carmen Sandiego, a Lego game, Rainbow Six game, SpongeBob, Bubble Pop. So, IP that isn't on Netflix is also getting a little bit booted. So there you go. Netflix continuing to shed.
I keep getting actually feedback from folks on what Netflix is up to right now. And I don't really have a full picture, but like the partial picture is basically that they are focusing on like kids and like, engagement things like trivia and really kind of lower brow, like interactive experiences that work on their platform. And honestly, I can't hate it because I think that might make sense for what they're trying to solve for, which is basically engagement and retention of their user base. But it feels like they're moving down a direction where this is not going to be some revolutionary, like, big change to the gaming environment. And if anything, it's going to be extractive of like, the people that don't matter, from the industry, and they'll play tchotchke games on Netflix. It's actually more, now that I think about it, it's more like Apple Arcade now. Like this is they're going down the Apple Arcade path.
But it was always Apple Arcade. Yeah. Like it was always on the path. They go even the same motions.
No, it was not.
No, Mishka, that's the whole... Mishka, come on, man. Haven't you been paying attention?
Like, I have. But...
They had a AAA game in development. They fucking paid GTA a gajillion dollars. They had like they were all over the
first
fucking
party,
place.
Third party.
Actually, in some ways, even though I agree with what Netflix is trying to do with what in context of what their strategy is, it's actually not worth covering because all it is extractive. It's not really additive to the industry in general. From what I'm hearing anyway, that may change. We'll see.
So. Yeah, I'm hearing some more positive things about Netflix games in terms of them making games for TV that you could play directly from the app. So that could be something that is quite interesting and quite original.
No, but the solve for that is fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. Because I've heard the tech stack is absolute shit at Netflix for interactive just from the get-go, right? Anyway, these are the things I'm hearing. They are going for like really casual tchotchke type of experiences, which I think may work for them. It doesn't work for me or the industry. It doesn't really.
Yeah.
It's not.
I
It's
just want
not
to
me.
understand like how long this continues because the real estate that they give games is very precious. It's like the first or second line when you go to Netflix. It's like these app icons, and like my wife would be seeing like, hey girl, you want to play GTA? It's like, no, I want to watch a mindless show about handsome SWAT guys, like whatever they do. I don't know what show she watches. Like there's some SWAT guys that look like models.
That's
I
awesome.
think it's called SWAT or something.
The thing that's weird is they've come out and said it's party, kids, narrative, and IP might be the other one. I think that was like Squid Game kind of things. And then what they said is we're not going to develop for other devices. We're going to develop for the TV as the main thing. And then the controller is your phone. And so I was like, okay, so if everyone has a phone, then mobile games don't make sense. Like that was what
Jackbox Games. They're making Jackbox Games. They should have bought Jackbox Games.
No shit. Yeah.
right.
We
A
talked
decade
about
ago.
this.
Why are they not doing this? I wrote a whole piece on this.
I know.
Buy Jackbox Games. It's
I
so
know.
easy. You have
Agree.
everything in place for this.
Agree.
Seamless. You can integrate IP into it. This can be a transmedia vehicle.
It would be too easy. It would be
Wait.
too easy.
The slides write themselves.
Did you just like say transmedia in a positive light,
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Oh my
this
God,
This is amazing. You're going to integrate
Where's the
all this
sound
IP into
effect?
trivia questions.
Mhm.
God,
Yeah.
Dom needs to add a sound effect. That's
This is being clipped right now.
Yeah, like film and transmedia. All right, so that's Netflix. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
take up too much time because
Sorry.
Mishka, I want to hear you go
Another
on yet
topic
again.
that we've beaten down the bush. So
Oh,
Netflix
what's
just
new?
jumps in. So I don't know, because every time we prepare these episodes, we look at the news that jumps up, and then the Supercell news was on BBC. So I was like, okay, let me take a read. And basically, BBC.com, Supercell boss, we need to take bigger risks. So I read the article, and Ilkka is on this. I don't know why he's on BBC talking about this. Very interesting audience choice and channel. But he is
IPO.
talking.
IPO.
IPO, exactly. So he's cited competition against games and apps. That's good. So apps are competition for games. They have to compete against the entertainment value of the TikToks and the YouTubes. Talked about costs of games rapidly increasing. So this is, of course, very high level for audience that probably plays Netflix games. And talks about the time to market and how the bar is higher for games. And then he talks more about what's happening at Supercell. So they have 10 games in development at various stages, and that the teams are asking themselves this question: why would people play this game in 5 or 10 years? So, okay. This is BBC stuff. And then he reiterated what Supercell's basically ethos is in making games, which is taking a quite complex game ideas and making them really easy and accessible to play and sort of a cartoony and fun. I think that's a very well put. That's what they do. He talked about AI. Again, Ilkka is all about AI. He talked about AI Innovation Lab in Helsinki. I'm quoting, we basically gave them free hand to do whatever they wanted in order to spark innovation. He cited that that's a massive success, and they are opening an AI lab in San Francisco. I wonder how much the person who runs AI lab in San Francisco is getting paid. I want to know that one. That must be some insane package, because AI guys in San Francisco and gals make a ton. But anyways, that kind of sparked me to look at Sensor Tower and Supercell's numbers. So the first half of 2024 to first half of 2025, since it's roughly comparable. And we can see that the portfolio is a little bit struggling because last year was record year. So Boom Beach is the only game that is up, and it's up by 6%. So good job, guys. It's their smallest game, I think. Brawl Stars down by 20%. Clash Mini dead. Clash of Clans down by third.
Hold on, we got to pause on Brawl Stars
Yeah.
because that has been such an important narrative of end of 2024. I feel like all I was getting on LinkedIn was Brawl Stars coverage.
Yes.
They're doing a GDC tour on their turnaround, all of that legitimate, flowers to them. But I would say this is now a period of silence, and the game is down almost half from where it was in May 24, where it was doing 80 million a month. It's now down to 40 million a month. Again, still very impressive. The narrative is still the same, but I would just say that is a radical change. They were not able to sustain this monetization level. Monopoly Go, which I hope we'll cover in future episodes. Also, by the way, a little bit of slippage on those top grossing charts.
Yes, I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but now they've changed the leader of Brawl Stars. So Frank led it. He made that insane pivot when the game was basically looking like dead on arrival in soft launch. And Frank was the person who took it over as a lead. And I think he came from customer support side or something. It wasn't like directly in game development. And so he has done a truly heroic job, basically pulling it out of 2 to 3 nosedives. So he's on his well-deserved sabbatical. I don't know if he left, but there was just on LinkedIn, he was basically taking a sabbatical. So that usually indicates that he's taking a break before moving on to next project. So all the kudos to him. He did a fantastic job.
Since I don't want to get too far away from the point that both of you just made about the numbers being dramatically down, both Monopoly Go and Supercell and Brawl Stars have web shops. And one thing that I want us to be super careful about, like we love Sensor Tower, and they said themselves, Chirag said that they are trying to add in a tool that will help estimate web payments. I just want to be careful to say that anytime I talk to these people about web shops, they are over the moon and saying that the percentage of revenue coming from web shops, if we're just talking about revenue, is very, very high, like 30, 40, 50%.
That gets you a level explanation. That doesn't necessarily get you a change explanation. Like here, the movement is important, and you would have to assume some crazy changes in web store adoption over the same period to compensate.
But the changes are from a number.
There's one data point that is missing here. So what Phil is showing is revenue by app. But there's another thing that we need to look at, and that is downloads. So I don't have that graph there, but I looked at it. And Brawl Stars downloads have gone to a third to what they were when it started climbing.
Okay. We talked about this when Brawl Stars did their re-thing. It was a combination of actually adjusting the game, but they also did an insane marketing push, something they hadn't done in so it was short-term revenue. It wasn't the same type of audience that they've captured, So they just didn't stick around, right?
Exactly. But they also talked about that was organic downloads. Like I think Frank came out on LinkedIn saying, like, I'm just paraphrasing, but it was giving something like 80% of the downloads are organic. And you're like, excuse me? So you're just basically not attributing. But anyways, like that's semantics. Overall, I would say the overall portfolio is down by about 20% if we're comparing first half to the second half. Of course, not looking at web shop revenue, so the actual amount can be smaller. But there's positive signs. Clash Royale is showing some positive growth right now with some good updates. Brawl Stars came down from the heights, as we talked about. Heyday, Clash of Clans, what are those, like 12-year-old games? They're pretty stable. Squad Busters is looking dicier than ever. Like dicey.
No, it's not dicey, Mishka. It's been dead. It's been dead for over a year.
No. There's a team in London that is working hard on it. Right? So until they give up, we're giving it a fighting chance.
It's in hospice right now.
Yeah,
that's what it's in.
So, but the overall story of Supercell, like I'm just tying down the article, like this is insanely profitable company. They're making like 121 million in net revenue a month on in-app purchases alone. That's insane. And I think just reading through this article, even though it's high level, I think Ilkka's doing absolutely the right thing. So the company is to some extent kind of living off dividends because these games they're generating revenue are old, and he's definitely pushing towards these new hungry elements like the AI lab. So bringing people outside the organization to come something new. Spark Labs, which nobody talks about anymore. It was I think the new cohort is starting after the summer, after the brief and short 3-day long summer of Finland. Then the Spark Lab starts with a new set of people. That's also a way to bring in hungry folks who are new to Supercell, new to Process, who just focus on building something new. It was interesting because I read this article after I left the I don't know if I can talk about the event, but anyways, around the event, there were many people from various different companies who work or have worked or affiliated with Supercell in somehow. And this was before I read the article, and some of the folks were talking about the Supercell work-life balance. And this is, again, hearsay. I do not know this, so don't attack me. But folks were talking about this, that at Supercell are, very work-life balance focused. It's 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You got the long holidays. The office is basically shut down for June. They have a lot of offsites. We're talking about 2 per quarter, usually per person. A lot of the leadership is working remotely. Like you got the CFO in Austin, you got the live ops head in Stockholm, you got marketing in London, you got people head in San Francisco. So you talk to people from Supercell and they're absolutely loving it because it's a great company to work for. And then you talk to somebody who's coming from Dream or HoYoverse, they might have like a PTSD, especially people from HoYoverse, which is like 997 culture. It's like hardcore even for Chinese. So what I'm trying to get at is it's a super profitable company, which games that are producing most of the revenue are shipped 10 years or more ago. And I think they're doing absolutely the right thing by shaking up the organization, by bringing people from, like, not even from outside, but almost like creating these cells inside the company, whether it's the AI cells or the Spark cells, to bring that hunger. Because it feels like life is excellent, and I would definitely choose Supercell as a place to work than anybody else.
What the fuck is this take? Wait, is this sarcasm?
No.
What?
Well, think about it. Like, I think about it from the culture perspective.
They're getting more chill, and they're about to IPO, and their revenue's down. Where are we cheering Ilka for this? He's getting distracted by these stupid little experiments rather than optimizing the high profile.
Here's what I'm trying to say. It's like really hard to change the culture that they have right now. And so they're bringing sort of like these auxiliary teams, how it feels like the Spark Labs and the AI Labs.
Yes, that is running away from your culture problems. That is not dealing with your culture problems. To give you an example, so at GDC, there was a lot of Supercellians that were there. And normally you could just go to Supercell, you could go to GDC whenever you want, just put it on the company bill. But now that the company has grown to such a big size, they have to make choices because resources are limited. So then how are you going to choose who goes to GDC and who doesn't? Well, now you need rules, right? And now you got to pick and choose. Now who gets to go, who doesn't get to go? And now who's going to have resources and who isn't going to have resources, right? I want $100 million more for my Brawl Stars marketing budget. Well, we can't really do that anymore, right? Because all these other people. So now you start to get into the classic hierarchy of resource control and management. And the thing we haven't seen from Ilka is how he's going to evolve Supercell to deal with the challenges of a modern corporation. We've heard nothing. And so he runs away to Spark Labs and to AI.
No. He was out there talking about this bullshit 2 years ago, right? Like he had this huge thing where we're changing the culture. We're doing everything. They haven't done shit.
It's a cute internship program.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, when you're this big, you actually wrote it very well. Scaling is not a risk-loving environment, right? Like when you're at this level of success, like to get you to the next level of success is a completely different calculus, you know? Like you can't be doing this kind of bullshit, flippy-floppy nonsense, right? And then this is a big debate that I had with Katla and Alexander, which him and I completely disagree on this point. When you're at this scale, innovation is tough, right? What they should be doing is leveraging their brand and bringing games to the masses that are already successful. So do the World of Warcraft type thing, like incrementally improve things. You know, Clash Royale was kind of similar to that as well. Like that's what they should be focusing on. Forget innovation and just starting from scratch. Like leverage what is successful and make it better. You know, like at this scale, you can't do this shit. Okay, I'm just saying, like, it's just not going to work, right?
But I think they have been doing it on a product sense. Like, we haven't talked about it, but Clash of Clans and Clash Royale got, like, rid of timers. Those are huge economy changes that I want to revisit. And those are storied franchises that are radically changing fundamental mechanics, right? He's not talking about that. He's not celebrating that.
Let me just break this down. I don't mean to be a dick, but Ilka's the wrong guy right now, right? They need someone new that actually can change the way they work. Right? If they want to continue to grow and beyond that, if they want to continue to do what they're doing, Ilka is fine. Like they're just not going to grow. They're just going to be basically flatline, right? Like forever.
I disagree. I disagree on that.
I mean, everything, you know, I was joking with you, like what different are you going to say? Like, I feel like every time we talk about Supercell, we're saying exactly the same thing. What is new about their approach over the last 2 years that I've been on this podcast? Every time you pull up a blog of his or an article, it's the same shit. Now it's like there's an AI company in San Francisco. Of course there is, because everyone has to say that because you have to.
You need a leader that actually can drive quote unquote innovation, but innovation in a way that scales for such a big company, right?
I mean, there's 0 to 1, there's 1 to 100, and then there's 100 to 1 billion. And and I think Kress is trying to say, perhaps Ilka is not the best fit for that stage of the company and where it is. He was awesome at the 1 to 100 or maybe 1 to a few thousand.
And this goes back to the Roblox thing too. Like the leader is still there, right? And
Yep.
I was actually wrong about that in some sense. He is basically allowing Manuel to like manage the revenue generation of the platform more aggressively, right? So they're like doing it together. So I was a little bit wrong on that. But the fact of the matter is they needed someone like Manuel to take them to the next stage of growth and level. Like he's not the right guy, right? And so bring in advertising, bring in merch, bring in all this other shit. It's like, if you want to continue to scale and grow and go IPO, that's what you need, right? If that's not what you need, then Ilka can keep doing what he's doing, right?
But they brought the CFO.
CFOs are shit, dude.
Yeah,
CFOs are fucking tails wagging the dog, dude. They I mean, there's certain instances when CFOs make a
CFOs are
material
shit.
difference.
No, I mean, the CFO is going to do what Phil said, right? Which is, I'm going to put constraints. I'm going to start to look at a budget. Like when I was at Riot didn't used to have a budget. And when I started in 2018, they were like, all right, we got to put our big boy pants on and we have to have a budget and we have to have a P&L. And everyone freaked out. They were like, oh my God, we just spend millions and millions on trailers because it's cool. And now people had to justify their life. So that's what a CFO does. They come in and they turn it into a real company.
I have to pull back a little bit because I know Mike Williams is going to kick my ass next time he sees me. CFOs are not shit. Blake Jorgensen, for instance, saved EA.
Immediate correction.
Yeah. So Blake, there's instances in which you need a CFO to keep people accountable and pull things together. You know, at EA, it was basically the Canadian mafia that just spent them into oblivion, building up all these fucking teams. It wasn't until Blake came along and fucking just decimated that whole big org and got rid of all this bullshit marketing spend on TV. And look, Blake was a fucking genius in terms of that. But generally speaking, CFOs are the tail wagging the dog, dude. Like, the leadership
they're not setting strategy.
COO, CEO, they're the ones that are really driving actual strategy, product strategy.
Well, I want to ask one question. Why is this article on BBC?
IPO.
Supercell comms seems to love not going to gaming. Well, actually, that's not fair. They've gone to our friend at Mobile Gaming Biz. I don't know. They have weird comms, right?
No, they now do only Pocket Gamer, which they advertise on. And so they do only that.
Cress, come on, right? Like the strategy is they want to start getting out in front of the business environment. That's why they hired that CEO. That's for a comm strategy. So comm strategy 101 is comms is only for a few things. One is if you need to raise money. 2 is if you need to do recruiting to get more people in. 3 is if you need to do some sort of like crisis management. 4 is you're laying the groundwork for an IPO. Press is not for players. It is not for consumers. It is for the business environment. I'm going to get shit from comms folks. But that is your comm strategy. So whenever people come to us as Deconstructor of Fun, I'm like, here's our audience. You know, what are you trying to accomplish? And sometimes I tell people, no, like that's not why you come to us. We cannot help you with that goal. So Cress, I wanted to ask, am I crazy by chanting IPO as like the reason why they did this?
Yeah. When you're going that broad, I mean, you're trying to build up interest from investors, right?
Yeah.
And equity investors that may or may not be familiar with the story, but when they see it on BBC, they're like, well, shit, dude, what the hell is this? You know?
It's name dropping, right? Like it's like now I have to pay attention because somebody at the BBC is talking about this.
I'll tell you though, one thing, like this growth profile, like it is a tough sell, right? I mean, it is a tough sell, dude. Because again, I've said this a million times on the podcast. The problem with gaming in general is it is a hit-driven business, and that makes people very nervous on the investment side because that creates volatility that they don't fucking want, right? That's when you scale over time and build and build and build is a better story for going public. This looks like they got one fucking huge uptick from Brawl Stars, and now it's going through the toilet again, right?
Not really through the toilet, 45 million a month.
I know, but we're comparing it to what, 120 million? And it wasn't for a short period of time. It was for 6 months. This thing was like driving that kind of thing. That's like, it's a huge drop, man. That's like huge. Yeah. Like that's not what people want to see, you know?
Game devs. Here at Heroic Labs, we know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, and rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. But coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero from Heroic Labs. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today at heroiclabs.com.
Web stores, you've seen what good looks like, but have you experienced great? AppCharge is the direct-to-consumer platform that powers over $500 million in transactions each year for top studios. They're not just another vendor. They're backed by Supercell and built by monetization veterans from Moonactive, Playtika, and other industry giants who understand the difference between merely functional and the truly exceptional. What sets them apart? Deeply personalized web stores with custom design offers, industry-leading monetization features, seamless in-game payment integration, and a robust SDK. While 70% of top-grossing games already have web stores, the ones scaling the fastest are doing it with AppCharge. Ready to transform good into great? Learn more at appcharge.com.
Guessing where your users come from? That's so 2010. AppsFlyer is like having a cheat code for mobile marketing. Pinpoint attribution, real-time insights, and analytics that actually make sense. Stop flying blind and start flying smart. AppsFlyer, because your data is your best co-op partner.
All right. So this is a quick one. Phil, thank you for surfacing in this. And also Game Discover Co. I love that newsletter. They have a lot of great stuff. It is YouTube's 20th anniversary. First of all, I'm old. Can you believe that YouTube is 20? Let's play trivia. What was the first video that was ever uploaded? And anyone? No? All right, I'll just tell you. So I just watched it because I had no idea what it was. It's a very boring video called Me at the Zoo. It's this guy in 2005 who just is standing in front of an elephant, is like, I'm at the zoo. Look, it's cool. It's like the most uninspiring video to ever go up. Happy 20th anniversary.
That's a beautiful first video. It's super mundane. It's the exact type of shit that you'd have on your phone, like concert videos. It's just you at a zoo introducing animals. It's beautiful.
It is. Yeah. No, this poor guy. So the video, if you can see there, has 356 million views or something like that, which is crazy knowing now that like any K-pop video gets like 1 billion views. It's like insane. All right. So the things I wanted to cover just really quickly were gaming highlights, because I don't think we all know as a game industry how much we prop up YouTube. So Minecraft videos passed 1 trillion views in 2021, and 4 years later, it's now 2 trillion. So, oh my God, how YouTube is growing. 60% of YouTube's 1,000 current most subscribed channels have uploaded at least one game video. So 60% of the top subscription channels have gaming content. In fact, Mr. Beast started as a Minecraft content creator. So my big takeaway is gaming doesn't just thrive on YouTube. It built the platform's cultural blueprint. So think about a little house. It's all built off of your backs. Everyone listening to the podcast, well done. YouTube should send us a check or a trophy or something.
Us, especially us.
Yeah. So sadly, something that isn't riding on the coattails of YouTube and Minecraft is Hightail.
So Hightail, I saw this article and I dove in. So Hightail was a promising Minecraft-like game, and it was in development. Some articles said 10 years, others say 7 years. It's a sandbox RPG, and the developer is called Hypixel Studios. And it was closed by the parent company, Riot Games. So Riot acquired Hypixel Studios back in 2020, but its anticipated sandbox RPG never materialized. Just to reiterate, 5 years under Riot, nothing to show for it, canceled. I think Riot has a bunch of these things. And when I was reading this, I was like, what's going on with 2XKO? You remember that fighting game that Riot has been? I remember living in the US. That's how far along when they acquired that fighting game studio out of somewhere in the Bay Area. And This game must be in development for 10 years. So 10 years in development under Riot, it must have cost like half of GTA 2 budget. Like, Riot definitely needs a CFO to look at this.
So I was at Riot for both these. And so for Project L, which was the code name of it back when I was there, it was announced during what we called L10, which was League's 10th anniversary. And so this was like 2019. And this was the moment I was thinking about it the other day that Riot put the S in Riot Games. And so it was the moment where the founders came out and said, hey, we're not just League anymore. You know, we have TFT, we have Project L, we're going to launch on mobile. So this is when we announced the pre-reg for all of the mobile games. And so I looked up just to see where 2XKO was. You know, sadly, I love you, Riot friends, but that is the worst name on the planet that I've ever heard of.
It is.
I struggle with the naming choice on that. And so just where the game is, they've shifted to this like 2v2 approach where you do mainly play as a single player, but you kind of tap in your AI companion to help you with assists and things like that. The character art, and we're looking at a screenshot, it seems to have evolved to be a little bit more comic-ish, comic-inspired, like painterly than what I remember. The game is scheduled for a 2025 release, but no date's been announced. The few articles I looked up said that there have been a series of alpha and beta tests that have had a mixed reaction. I'm not a fighting game ninja or aficionado. Anyone else hear anything about it?
We covered this a couple weeks ago that they're splitting off the Marvel part of Marvel v. Capcom into its own fighting game. I don't know. It's a bunch of people going after a really small pie. We've covered the fighting market before. It's just like the racing market. It sells the same amount of copies every single year. People try to get out of the genre constraints. Oh, maybe we'll build an MMO into it, or we'll build, I don't know. It just doesn't happen. It is what it is. Doesn't mean they're not great games, but the TAM is just not there.
Yeah. I'm just showing a video here of Marvel. Again, horrible name. Talking about bad name names.
Dokkan?
What is this, Jen? Marvel. What's Dokkan? Like what?
Yeah. Again, like public service announcement. If you cannot say the name of your game, that means that people can't benefit from word of mouth. They certainly can't spell it in their search box to look for it. Stop it.
Yeah. Seems like Marvel basically just launched Marvel Dokkan, which seems to be the Riot game, but just with Marvel characters. And it's I don't know. It seems like Riot taken a long time to launch games, except TFT that came out in like 6 months.
The story of that is amazing. The quick super story is one day we're all sitting there. So this was when I was on like League Growth, and some of my team members come in. And they're like, I noticed that no one was doing work and all they were doing was playing auto chess from Dota Auto Chess. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, there's just this auto battler thing. It's amazing. And then one of the guys was like, why don't we do that with League characters? And literally like weeks later, they were prototyped and built auto chess with League characters. Like it was the most, it just shows you that great gameplay and passion can really move things along. I think we launched it on PC a few months later. And then about 5 months after the launch of the PC version, we launched on mobile.
Like, how come Riot doesn't do this more? Like, I thought that the whole shipping of TFT was amazing. They were almost like sneak ship a whole new game that was actually successful. So how come it takes them so long to do anything else?
Making games is hard.
Yeah, but this is the same company that can ship in 6 months. Or it has taken 10 years to make a fighting game.
Yeah, it wasn't Riot. Like that was a different studio that they acquired. But in any event, yes. Go for it, Crest. Right. So, Xbox.
All right. The big news of the week was that Jason Schreier wrote an article basically suggesting that Microsoft plans another major cut at the Xbox division of Microsoft. That's supposedly going to happen next week. And so it just got me motivated to actually finally write the article that I've been trying to write for a while and publish it. And actually, unfortunately, Joseph Kim beat me to it. But anyway, nonetheless, as I've said a million times on this podcast, and I've been talking about this way too much, is that Microsoft's whole strategy has been a fucking train wreck from the get-go, right? And so what I wanted to articulate in this article is why they have failed succinctly. And I wish I write more on LinkedIn because it actually has 30,000 views already in less than 24 hours. All right. So why is Microsoft failing is most important and what they can do in order to improve it, right? 1, Game Pass is missing the mark. They are less than 40 million subs, and that's nowhere near their 100 million people target. And the whole point of a subscription is to scale it so that you can justify giving away content, right? So this is not happening. Their hardware share is absolutely cratered. They are just not competitive anymore. They're less than 30% of the console market versus Sony. And then if you add Nintendo in there, devastating loss for them. But software is the biggest red flag because software is where they make all their money. Like this is a razor blade business, and all the margin that they get from third-party software, that's cratering, right? So they're less than 14% share against Sony and even worse against Nintendo. Cloud gaming, feature on the box, right? That is not expanding the market. It is not removing friction at all. That is a complete loss leader for them. That is a bullshit product that doesn't even make sense. And then the cross-platform promise is broken as well. Like all the bullshit PR about bringing shit to mobile, that is not fucking working, right? People are not playing Xbox on a fucking iPhone, right? That's not happening. That will never happen. That is a stupid idea. That was all PR bullshit to get this deal done. It had nothing to do with like the reality of what consumers want, right? And then finally, AI is actually bad for Xbox, right? Because AI is what Microsoft is focused on. They don't give a shit about Xbox, right? It is not part of their core strategy, as I've said a million times, and it doesn't make sense to have this as part of it. The only pushback I keep getting on this is that the player data that they gain from Xbox could help them build out their LLMs, which may be true, but they're not fucking doing that now as far as I can tell, and also it's a privacy nightmare for them. So what my solution is, fucking spin out Xbox now, right? Do it now before we have a death of 1,000 cuts of this bullshit that you guys are doing. Layoff after layoff after layoff, destroying the Halo teams, cutting all these other teams like this. It's got to stop. And if you do this now, you might save like the business holistically. Having said that, there are a lot of challenges again with this. So become an independent company to compete head to head with Sony. Sunset Game Pass, get rid of Game Pass altogether and just create a normal sub for like catalog and other shit. Maybe some exclusives over time or timed exclusives, but none of this like day and date, like release exclusive thing. That's not going to work. And then bring back exclusives, right? Everything will be exclusive to Xbox. Obviously, they can't do that with Call of Duty because it's contractual and they have all these legal issues, but make a very specific experience on Xbox that differentiates it from other platforms for Call of Duty. Kill the Series S. Your Series S was a fucking dumb idea from the get-go. That is like kept them in the dark ages of game development since fucking the launch. Almost half of their units have been Series S, which are not a capable device. And then license it to third parties, right? And then go public, right? This would be a huge publicly traded company. This would be Activision 2.0 with hardware, right? A pure play gaming company, right? And giving them the flexibility to do crazy things like Joseph suggested of buying Epic, which will never happen because it will never sell. But nonetheless, that gives them the much more flexibility to do what they need to do as a standalone gaming entity. The alternative, keep it fucking at Microsoft, right? It avoids like the short-term pain of a major reorg and lots of like changes and big strategy pivot, but it also guarantees like this quiet decline of the destruction of teams and franchises. And it trades disruption for complacency. And that path leads straight to death by 1,000 cuts. That is the end of my article. So, yes.
Well, so one thing I wanted to ask you that you didn't talk about was kind of the AMD and the new console announcement. So basically, I think last week they came out and said, they're basically continuing the partnership with AMD. So nothing new here. NVIDIA stopped making console chips for the PS3, I think was the last time they really did it. And AMD has been the leader since then. So let me read Sarah Bond's quote from the announcement. This is all about building you a gaming platform that's always with you, so you can play the games you want across devices anywhere you want, delivering you an Xbox experience not locked to a single store or tied to one device. Bond said at the AMD partnership, that's why we are working closely with the Windows team to ensure that Windows is the number one platform for gaming. I think they're actually doubling down on staying at Microsoft, going more vertically integrated, and not listening to you whatsoever, which is
no. Actually, this doesn't necessarily not align with what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think they can execute on this strategy as a standalone operator much better than they can under the Microsoft umbrella, right? The AMD partnership is actually good, but the AMD partnership has been going on since the PS3 days. Like the only time NVIDIA was a factor was back then. So the subscription is the problem. They need a hardware strategy, and this is actually a decent hardware strategy. They partner with AMD to bring the capability to different multiple devices, but then also The integration with Windows is the other thing that's really interesting as well. But I'm not objecting to the PC strategy at all. Like, I think the PC strategy makes sense. Like, bring Xbox to PC, right? Windows 11, all that stuff. They don't need the subscription. The subscriptions are what's killing them right now, right? In terms of profitability. So I think they are making the right moves. This is the right strategy. And even like creating third parties, like licensing the tech for handheld devices with Asus
the ROG
like,
Ally.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like that makes sense too, right? It's small potatoes, but that could make sense in terms of bringing the pricing down from the hardware perspective, potentially over time. But that's what they need to be focused on, not like subscription, cloud, all this other crap that they've been doing. It's been an absolute like train wreck, right?
Okay. All right. So this is an Xbox strategy. Cress is approving subscription, cloud,
yes, and on mobile, like
and mobile. Yeah,
Apple and
mobile,
Google.
so.
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Got it. Okay.
This is a stupid idea to spin it off. There's no value there. Your hardware business is negative margins. You're a giant publisher with really no cohesive core. With mobile, King just sits around like this is just waiting to be diced and sliced and sold at different places. They're not stronger together than they are separately. That instantly is what happens if there's even a sniffle of this actually being done. There's no way they're going to be held together as a publicly held company. You know that too. This is why I keep pressing you on what does the P&L look like. It looks like dog shit.
It doesn't have to be public. It could be private equity.
Sure, it can be private, but it's not going to be as one entity because that entity sucks under one P&L. It's going to be sold and diced up for its most profitable parts.
This is the thing, is when I write this article, I am saying what they should do, not what they will do, and not what's easy, right? Like, it's much easier to stay within Microsoft and just die a slow death as they, destroy all value and all teams within the company, right? Which is basically what's happening right now as we speak, like real time, right? And they have enough money. Microsoft clearly has enough money to keep this thing going for basically forever, right? In order to actually help the big gaming business and create more of a dynamic market and to really innovate on the gaming side, they need to be standalone. And you're right, it's fucking messy, dude. And it ain't easy and it ain't going to happen, right? Probably. But I just want it to happen so that we have a legitimate competitor against Sony and Nintendo and just basically try to bring it back to the competitor that it used to be before they fucked up that Xbox 360 generation. Xbox One generation, sorry.
Nintendo and Sony are not even like competitors. Like they're kind of like, it's normal to have both of the devices, right?
Which one?
Switch and PlayStation. Like they're not substitute.
No, correct.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Actually, Philip, I can't say I disagree with you, dude. But the fact like having new leadership, and I suggest like someone like Frank Gibeau or Owen Mahoney would be that type of person that maybe could lead this as a publicly traded company. They could actually, I think, make the changes needed, but it's going to be messy, really messy. To your point, right? Like,
all right, games. Let's hit some game updates, Phil.
All right, I'm going to go pretty fast through this. So to give some hype, next week we'll be covering Uma Musume Pretty Derby, June 26th. This is the Japanese girl horse racing game. I think it holds the record for the highest revenue per download of all time amongst any game that has any sort of scale at $118 per download.
In Japan, though, right? Like
95% of the revenue is Japanese, so keep that in mind. It is at over $1.8 billion according to Sensor Tower. But unfortunately, the revenue has basically been on the linear decline since the game came out, which I think goes back to a piece that we heard from Lilith, if you remember when they were doing AFK Journey, trying to talk about the struggles of running RPG-based games for long periods of time, particularly meta collector games. But this is finally coming to the West, so I'd say buckle in. Let's see if this has any pickup here. This will also be on Steam, which I think is particularly interesting. I have no idea if this is going to be left to die like Eggy Party. If you remember that, that was the Fall Guys like game in China, which is doing monster numbers still, and came to the West with basically a dud, no marketing support. And there's another one I wanted to cover, which was, I would argue, another big release, which was Crystal of Atlan. I don't know if anyone has heard about this. It's a Magipunk RPG. So, think kind of Genshin style graphics with a steampunk sci-fi aesthetic. It had been out in China for a couple years and finally got released in the West. I thought I had a chance to do something interesting, and it has also landed like a dud. So rest in peace, Crystal Atlan. And when we're on the topic, I think we need to talk about one other action RPG in this vein, which has struggled, which is Zenless Zone Zero. And so when I was talking to some people at NetEase, one of the things that they mentioned is that these version 2.0s for Chinese games are becoming more and more important for just how the publishers end up viewing the overall project and are becoming a really natural lighting post for the development process. And so Zenless Zone Zero had a 2.0 launch. It's about a year after it's gone live. And if you remember the narrative behind this game, we finally were starting to see potentially an ability for MiHoYo not to cannibalize itself. But the problem with the game itself is that it, first of all, hasn't grown, and it's a very small part of MiHoYo's portfolio. And so all we've seen so far is a small revenue bump. I wouldn't even say small. It's a pretty substantial revenue bump from the 2.0 update. And it does look like baseline is potentially around 40% higher than it was before the update. But at the end of the day, when we look at the portfolio for this company, Zenless Zone Zero for MiHoYo is still looking at maybe 10% of the portfolio. And on an active user basis, it's only around 1% to 2% of active users. So this thing is still just immaterial to MiHoYo, which brings us to the job posting they recently had for a Unreal 5 urban open world game. It was originally known as Project SH. It began development in 2020. It got rebooted at the end of 2022. It's in production for a while. That couldn't meet expectations. It has maybe GTA-like themes in some of its description. Let's see where they go with this. But I am starting to wonder if MiHoYo is almost like becoming the Ubisoft of the West, or excuse me, of the East, where they're just doing these super high budget open world games that don't really stack on top of each other in the way that you might expect. So let's see what this one becomes.
UE5 too. That's interesting. Right? That's Unreal Engine?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that just fits in naturally with their crossplay strategy, though, of having it both on mobile and on desktop and having, high quality 3D worlds.
Okay.
Yeah, and open world.
Open world. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got?
One other small update I wanted to mention from our segment on Kingshot, and this is something Jakob had pointed out from 2.5 Gamers, is that a lot of the Kingdom early action RPG gameplay actually comes from a Steam game called Thronefall, which was released in October 2024. In fact, the screenshots, when you look at them, are uncanny. They basically riff this off one-to-one. It's pretty clear that this was the inspiration. Maybe there was some other lineage there, but if this is really what came before Kingshot, it's pretty obvious where they went. And if you remember, we've covered earlier that Voodoo has a team where they're just monitoring Steam games and mining them for insights. So Bagfight was one of the games that came out of this. It was based on Backpack Battles, which was on Steam. And we also had Hole.io, which came from Voodoo, that was based on Donut County. And of course, we have All in Hole, which we've been following as well, which, by the way, is doing crazy business.
Oh,
we haven't covered this, but All in Whole is doing about $7 million a month in IAP revenue. And I think when you combine it with ad revenue, this game is probably doing over 9 figures a year, which is massively, massively impressive for Homa. And all they've done is basically add the mobile monetization casual core over these Steam titles. And in Happy's case, remember, they actually had Survivor.io, which had a lot of influence from Vampire Survivors, just adding in kind of the power score meta when it came to mobile. And when we start to look in the future, I would say there's a lot of interesting things that I think Steam continues to deliver. There's a game that'll be coming out soon called Ship Inc., which is a lot of tidying. And that is also something that's doing very well on the App Store. We're seeing Cookingdom, which is a hyper casual title, but the studio behind it is Vietnamese. They have a bunch of titles around tidying things, assembling things. I think they're doing really well right now. And let's also see how the Steam release of Ship Inc. generates ideas potentially for the idle category. But I continue to believe like Steam is now the new forefront for a lot of mobile developers to mine ideas and then wrap them around proven monetization models, like Habby has done with their meta. And I think with a lot of what the casual match meta has done, I think it's just a question of finding that right core gameplay.
Interesting. What a weird transition to start on Steam as in a sense, hyper casual or hybrid casual gameplay opportunity and then go to mobile. You would think it would be reverse, but that's cool. I like that insight, Phil. Well done. Good job.
So I think there's one more really important franchise which I've wanted to cover and we haven't had the opportunity yet to do so, which is Rematch, which is doing absolute gangbusters on Steam. This is what's being called Rocket League meets football. So it plays much more like a arcade style football match than, let's say, traditional FIFA, which is top down. There's a lot of different players. They're switching between the different players. This is you controlling one soccer player and having a lot more autonomy over its moment to moment action of the character. It's only 3 versus 3, so there's a lot less going on, and each player is controlling a real soccer player. The gameplay looks very tight, and the results so far are incredible. We're looking at daily active users for Rematch on Steam. And yes, your eyes do not deceive you. That is an upward sloping graph on Steam for DAU. It is hitting around 600,000 daily active users on Steam. And I think from what we last heard from the unit sales, it had crossed what 1 million copies in 5 days, which is very impressive. And I think is like another shot across the bow for FIFA. And I think if you know Goals, which is a Swedish team here, which has a lot of VC backing, they've been trying to go after FIFA as well. And there's question about whether or not you can do this without the license. And I think this is a good vote in the category that you can build a soccer game without the license.
Yeah, and they also have like 2.5 million players, which includes their part of the Box subscription. So it is scaling very nicely. But again, I don't know if this really competes against something like FIFA, because
EAFC, everybody. EAFC.
Yeah. Without the license, it's going to be really tough to compete on what makes FIFA unique. And FIFA is a sim. It's not an arcade game.
That's fair. I think people have been trying to find whether or not you can build sports games outside of licensing. And I think also trying to build a more arcade style experience in sports has been a challenge. And I think this is finally a good use case for this, or at least a proof of concept for finally executing at a high quality against this. I agree it's not going to go after FIFA, but I do think like this can be a challenger for Rocket League. Like no one's going after that Rocket League
100%.
type gameplay in a long time.
Yeah.
Plenty of startups do go after Rocket League, but they just haven't been able to get the same traction.
Oh, yeah. Well, in football, there are segments, you ranges from arcade to hyper sim. There's management. There's some opportunities. The work that I've done in the space tells me that it is very difficult to get players, especially from an acquisition standpoint, if you don't have teams and licenses and, the actual characters. Now, you just have to work harder at the acquisition stage. Once they get in and they're interested and that's the kind of experience you want, then, there's opportunity. Okay, everyone. Sorry, Mishka, we didn't get to your article again. Do it next week when I'm not here. I can't wait. All right, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.